By the 1700s, Britain had 13 colonies strung along America's east coast, and they were booming. To Britain, the colonies were mainly a money machine. Buy British goods, sell your stuff to Britain, and don't ask questions. For decades, Britain mostly ignored them. The colonists got very used to running their own affairs. Then Britain and France went to war over North America in the French and Indian War. Britain won and kicked France out of the continent, but the war left it drowning in debt. Britain looked at the colonies and thought, you benefited from this war, so you can help pay for it. So Parliament started taxing the colonies to refill the royal treasury. The problem, the colonists had no representatives in Parliament. New taxes, but no say.
It is an outrage.
Their rallying cry became, no taxation without representation.
Give us liberty or give us death.
Britain said, you have virtual representation. The colonists said, that is not a real thing. The mood between them was souring fast. First came the Stamp Act, a tax on nearly all paper, contracts, newspapers, even playing cards. The colonies exploded with protests and boycotts until Britain backed down and repealed it.
We will not comply.
But then came new taxes on glass, paint, paper, and tea. Britain just would not quit. Britain sent soldiers into Boston to keep order. That worked out beautifully. It did not. In 1770, a jeering crowd pushed some soldiers too far. They fired. 5 colonists were killed. It was branded the Boston Massacre, and propaganda spread the story like wildfire. Britain repealed most of the taxes, but kept the tax on tea, just to prove it still could.
We will not pay.
Then a new Tea Act flooded the colonies with cheap British tea, undercutting local merchants. So in 1773, colonists disguised as Mohawks boarded the ships and dumped 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor. The Boston Tea Party. Britain was absolutely furious.
Boston Harbor is a teapot tonight.
In response, the colonies formed the Continental Congress to coordinate their resistance.
We must sign this declaration now.
Both sides began stockpiling weapons. The whole situation was a lit fuse. In April 1775, British troops marched to seize the colonists' weapons stored at Concord. Riders like Paul Revere raced ahead, shouting the alarm, and the militia scrambled to gather. At Lexington, a single shot rang out. The shot heard round the world. The revolution had begun. The British reached Concord, found little, and were swarmed by militia the entire way back. The colonies raised a Continental Army and chose George Washington to command it. At Bunker Hill, the colonists lost the hill, but inflicted terrible losses on the British. It proved something huge. These farmers and shopkeepers could actually fight.
This is a disaster.
Still, Washington's army was tiny, untrained, and desperately short of everything. And many colonists still secretly hoped to patch things up with Britain.
Give us death. We will not be oppressed.
Then Thomas Paine published a pamphlet called Common Sense, arguing bluntly for independence. It became a massive bestseller and swung public opinion hard toward breaking away. In July 1776, the Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal, with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To the crown, this was open treason. Now there was truly no going back. But declaring independence and actually winning it were two very different things. Britain unleashed the largest invasion force it had ever assembled onto New York. They smashed Washington in New York and chased his army in retreat across New Jersey.
The army was collapsing, freezing, and shrinking by the day. The cause looked doomed.
So on Christmas night, 1776, Washington secretly crossed the icy Delaware and struck at Trenton. The victories were small, but they electrified the country and kept the revolution alive. In 1777, Britain's grand plan was to split the colonies in two by seizing the Hudson River. It collapsed at Saratoga, where an entire British army was surrounded and forced to surrender. Saratoga was the turning point, because it finally convinced France to jump into the war. France had been dying for revenge on Britain, and now it committed everything. French money, troops, and a powerful navy transformed the entire war. Soon, Spain and the Dutch joined in too. Britain was suddenly fighting much of the world. Meanwhile, Washington's army endured a brutal, starving winter at Valley Forge. There, a tough Prussian officer named von Steuben drilled them into a real disciplined army. They came out of that winter tougher, trained, and finally ready to fight as one. Still, the war ground on, bloody and expensive, wearing down both sides for years. Britain changed strategy and shifted the war south, hoping loyalists would rally to them. Instead, it became a vicious, grinding guerrilla war across the southern backcountry. Then, British General Cornwallis marched his army to a Virginia town called Yorktown. Big mistake. He had backed himself onto a peninsula, against the ocean.
We're trapped here on the peninsula.
The French Navy swept in and slammed the door on his escape by sea.
What will we do now?
Washington and the French then trapped him by land and pounded the town with cannon. Surrounded and battered, Cornwallis surrendered his entire army in 1781. A British band reportedly played a tune called "The World Turned Upside Down." In 1783, the Treaty of Paris made it official. The United States was a free, independent nation. 13 rebel colonies had beaten the most powerful empire on Earth. Oversimplified? Absolutely.